There is a truth few Americans want to face. You can save your entire life, but just a few years of healthcare and retirement can wipe everything out. On average, medical costs after age 65 can exceed $300,000. But what is shocking is this. There are countries where you can retire on under $2,000 a month, still have housing, still have healthcare, and no longer live in fear of medical bills. This is not a dream and not a loophole. These are real policies, designed to attract foreign retirees. In this video, you will explore 5 countries that are effectively paying you by lowering taxes, reducing living costs, and protecting your health, simply to choose to retire there. If you have ever worried that your retirement savings are not safe in the United States, watch until the end. These options could completely change how you see retirement. Dream it. Pack it. Go. 5. Italy. The country that pays you to move in, to save dying villages. Italy does not begin its retirement story with visas or tax rates. Italy begins with a very real crisis. Hundreds of small villages across the country are slowly disappearing. Young people leave, homes sit abandoned, schools close, and in some places, only a few dozen elderly residents remain all year long. It was in this context that an unprecedented decision emerged: paying foreigners to come and live. This is not a rumor, not a tourism marketing gimmick. These are programs publicly announced by local governments. In many regions of southern and central Italy, authorities are willing to provide support ranging from a few thousand to tens of thousands of euros for those who agree to relocate and live there long-term, especially retirees. Some places sell homes for symbolic prices, sometimes no more than the cost of a dinner, on the condition that you commit to renovation and actually live there. What shocks many Americans is not the amount of money, but the thinking behind it. Italy does not view retirees as a budget burden. They see you as a solution. You bring savings, spend locally, revive small shops, cafes, healthcare services, and most importantly, bring life back to communities that are slowly fading. This is a two-way relationship, not a handout. Many American retirees share that they did not come to Italy just to live cheaper, but to live with more purpose. They become part of the village, greeted every morning, asked about when they are absent for a few days, invited to local festivals like family. Italy also has a very special tax policy for foreign retirees, but what few people notice is that it does not apply everywhere. The government deliberately designed the strongest incentives for areas experiencing population decline. In some southern regions, foreign retirees can benefit from very low flat income tax rates for many years. This is when many people first realize Italy does not need you in Rome or Milan. Italy needs you in the places that have been forgotten. And here is the number that many Americans only learn after actually living in Italy. In small villages where local governments are actively seeking new residents, a retired couple can live fully on about $1,500 to $1,950 per month. This amount already includes housing or home maintenance, fresh local food, utilities, transportation, and basic health care. Not luxurious, but sufficient. Not belt-tightening, but living at the village's natural pace. When the two biggest expenses of old age, housing and health care, are no longer a burden, retirement income finally becomes a tool for living, not just surviving. In terms of health care, Italy directly addresses one of the deepest fears of Americans: the cost of medical care in old age. Italy's public healthcare system ranks among the best in Europe, with costs so low they seem hard to believe compared to the United States. When you are a legal resident, You have access to high-quality medical services without facing bills that keep you awake at night. For many people, this is the first time they feel that getting older does not automatically mean going bankrupt because of illness. The pace of life in Italian villages is a cultural shock in a positive sense. No one is in a hurry. No one asks what you do for a living. People care whether you eat well, sleep enough, and step outside to talk with neighbors. Here, retirement is not a retreat from society, but a transition into a different role, slower, deeper, and more connected. Italy does not promise that everything will be easy. You may need to renovate a house. You must learn patience with bureaucracy. You must accept that things do not run at American speed. But in return, you receive something many people only realize they are missing after retirement: the feeling that they still belong somewhere. If Panama is a place where the system opens its doors to welcome you, then Italy is a place where the community opens its arms to keep you. Not because you are wealthy, but because you are present. And for many American retirees, that difference is large enough to make them willing to start again, even if it is only in a small hill village where afternoons move slowly and life finally has time to be lived. Sometimes, the place we belong is not where we were born, but where we are awaited. If you could choose to spend the rest of your life in such a village, would you choose Italy or stay where you are now? Leave a comment. Sometimes, simply saying it out loud is enough for a new choice to begin taking shape. 4. Ecuador, where old age is not a burden, but a protected right. Have you ever wondered why life seems to become more expensive as you grow older? When you were young, people told you to try hard, to work diligently, to save every dollar so that when retirement came, you would be at peace. But time passes, and you come to face a difficult truth. Medication costs rise faster than wages ever did. Utility bills inch upward each year, and the sense of security grows smaller and smaller. The greatest fear is not lacking money today, but the fear of living longer than the money you have. And it is in that state of mind that many people begin looking beyond the United States and discover Ecuador. Not because of flashy advertising, and not because of a beach retirement dream, but because of a reality that makes them stop and reconsider their entire life plan. In Ecuador, older people are not merely given preferential treatment through a few goodwill policies. Their rights are written directly into the national constitution. This means no government can arbitrarily cut them, no political term can reverse them, and no budget excuse can take away what older people are entitled to. This is exactly what makes Ecuador unique, and also what very few videos clearly explain. Old age here is not a group that can be sacrificed when the economy becomes difficult. It is a condition protected by law. When you reach retirement age, the law automatically stands on your side. No begging. No proving hardship. No worrying that everything will change next year. The shocking truth is that simply being older is enough for your life to become cheaper in a literal sense. Seniors in Ecuador receive at least a 50% discount on public transportation. Electricity, water, and telecommunications bills are directly reduced. Many public, cultural, and recreational services are also legally required to offer discounted rates. This is not a promotion and not a privilege. It is a right. And when that right is protected at the constitutional level, the sense of security it provides is far greater than its pure monetary value. But what keeps many people in Ecuador long-term is not just the numbers. It is the emotional experience of living in a society that naturally respects older people. Here, you are not seen as someone who has lost value. You are treated with patience, addressed with respectful titles, and regarded as someone who has lived enough years to deserve slowing down. For many Americans, this feeling is so unfamiliar that they only realize how long they have been missing it when they experience it for the first time. Financially, Ecuador continues to move against what many once assumed was inevitable. Foreign retirement income is not taxed. Your Social Security or pension remains fully yours. No complex structures, no loopholes, no worrying every tax season about how much more you are losing. When the cost of living sits around $1,000 to $1,200 per month, that difference creates breathing room that many people have not felt for decades. There is one small but extremely important detail for those who have lived their entire lives in the United States. Ecuador uses the US dollar. No currency exchange. No worrying about exchange rates. No feeling of unfamiliarity every time you open your wallet. That familiarity creates a quiet but lasting sense of security, especially for people who no longer want to learn how to adapt to too many new things in retirement. Ecuador's climate feels like an invitation to bodies worn down by extreme weather. In the Andean highlands, you do not need air conditioning, and you do not have to shovel snow. Temperatures remain stable year-round, cool enough for deep sleep, warm enough that joints do not complain every morning. Life moves slowly not because of a lack of ambition, but because no one feels the need to rush. Ultimately, what Ecuador truly pays you is not just money or benefits. It is the feeling of living within a system that does not see old age as a problem to be solved, but as a stage that deserves protection. Here, you do not have to fear that one day everything will be taken away simply because you are no longer working. Ecuador does not just help you live cheaper, it helps you live lighter. And for many people, that is the most deserving reward for a lifetime of labor. 3. Panama, a retirement visa. Haven where the law actively pays you to stay. Panama does not begin its retirement story with beaches or climate. Panama begins with a legal document, a program that has existed for decades, written with one very clear goal: to attract foreign retirees and keep them long-term. It is called the Pensionado Visa, and this is not a courtesy invitation, but one of the strongest retirement policies ever enacted anywhere in the world. An important fact many Americans are completely unaware of is that Panama was the first country in Latin America to create a retirement visa program with benefits mandated by law, not perks granted at discretion. As long as you can prove a stable retirement income of around $1,000 per month, you are immediately granted long-term residency, virtually for life. No need to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars. No need to purchase real estate up front. No need to wait years for reconsideration. Your right to stay is established from the beginning. But what makes the Pensionado Visa legendary is not the right to remain, but what you receive afterward. By law, holders of this visa receive mandatory discounts across a wide range of essential services. Airline tickets are discounted by up to 50%. Hotels and lodging are discounted by 30 to 50%. Electricity, water, and phone bills are directly reduced. Healthcare services, medications, entertainment, even movie tickets and cultural events receive discounts. This is not a membership card, not a promotional program, but a legal obligation for businesses to charge lower prices for retirees. For many Americans, the biggest shock is not the size of the discounts, but the feeling that for the first time in their lives, old age is actively prioritized by the system. In Panama, you do not need to prove hardship to receive support. You do not need to worry that policies will change next year. The Pensionado Visa has survived multiple generations of governments because Panama understands one very practical truth. Retirees bring money into the economy without taking jobs from locals. Another key factor that makes Panama especially attractive to Americans is its territorial tax policy. Panama does not tax income sourced from outside the country. That means your Social Security, pension, or withdrawals from your 401k are not taxed in Panama. When this is combined with a significantly lower cost of living than in the United States, many people realize for the first time that their retirement income is not small at all. They were simply living in the wrong place. Currency is also a detail that makes Americans feel at ease immediately. Panama uses the US dollar alongside the Balboa. You do not need to exchange money, worry about exchange rates, or learn to think in a new unit. For people who have spent their entire lives within the US financial system, this familiarity removes a great deal of invisible stress when moving to another country. Many couples live comfortably on about $1,600 to $2,000 per month. In terms of health care, Panama addresses a very real concern of American retirees. The private hospital system in major cities such as Panama City or David is high quality. Many doctors are trained in the United States, and costs are 40 to 70% lower than in the US. More importantly, you do not have to battle insurance the way you are used to back home. Many people choose to pay directly for medical services and are surprised to find that their total annual cost is still lower than a single deductible in the US. Geographic distance is also a major psychological factor. Panama is only a few hours by flight from the United States. You do not have to feel like you are disappearing from the map. Visiting children and grandchildren, handling urgent matters, or simply returning to the US when needed, all remain within reach. For many people, this feeling is just as important as cost or benefits. Finally, what keeps retirees in Panama is not glamour, but the sense that the system was intentionally designed for them. Clear visas, clear benefits, clear taxes, clear costs. No ambiguity, no empty promises. Panama does not try to persuade you with words. They write everything into law and then let you experience the difference by living within it. If Ecuador gives you the feeling of being protected, then Panama gives you the feeling of being actively welcomed. Not as a tourist, but as someone the country truly wants to keep. And for many Americans, that feeling alone is enough to completely change how they see their retirement years. 2. Portugal, old age insurance. That many Americans only discover when it is too late. There is a hard truth to say out loud. Many Americans are not afraid of dying early. They are afraid of living too long. Because in the United States, living longer means medical risk, and medical risk means financial ruin. One surgery or a few years of treatment can wipe out everything saved over a lifetime. Portugal enters the retirement picture with a very clear role, a country that ensures the risks of old age. Not through promises, but through policy. Americans with stable retirement income can obtain legal residency without needing to continue working. For many years, favorable tax programs allowed most foreign retirement income to be taxed at very low rates, sometimes nearly zero. That means retirement income is not drained just to survive. But the real shock lies in healthcare. Legal residents in Portugal have access to a highly ranked public healthcare system in Europe, with costs of only a few euros per doctor visit. Seeing a specialist is not a gamble with insurance. Many Americans say that the first time they went to a doctor here, they were not tense, not worried about the bill, not afraid of the number at the bottom of the page. In addition, the modern private healthcare system allows insurance coverage for roughly $50 to $100 per month, far lower than in the United States. The cost of living in Portugal makes many people rethink their entire retirement plan. In smaller cities and coastal areas, A couple can live comfortably on about 1,800 to 2,200 US dollars per month, including rent, food, transportation, and healthcare. Renting a one-bedroom apartment outside the city center typically costs around 700 to 900 US dollars. You do not need to sacrifice quality of life to save money, because the system already does that for you. Portugal also consistently ranks among the safest countries in the world. The pace of life is slow, with less violence and less stress. You do not have to spend money to buy a sense of safety. It already exists in everyday life. When healthcare and safety are no longer constant threats, the mind is freed to actually enjoy living. Portugal does not promise that you will never get sick, but it gives you something extremely rare for Americans: the right to grow old without fearing medical bills. And sometimes, removing just one major fear like that is enough to turn retirement into a stage worth living rather than a gamble. 1. Philippines, where Americans do not retire alone. There is a truth that many people only realize a few years after retiring. Money may be sufficient, health may be manageable, but loneliness has no real substitute. Children are busy, friends grow distant, long days pass in silence. And that is why the Philippines appears on this list, not because it pays the most, but because it offers something many wealthy countries cannot: the feeling of belonging to a family. The Philippines is one of the very few countries in the world where older people are placed at the center of social life. Living in multi-generational households is normal here. Seniors are not treated as a burden, but as keepers of memory, rhythm, and connection. For Americans who are used to independence that often turns into isolation, this cultural contrast may feel strange at first, but it quickly becomes the reason many never want to leave. The Philippines' retirement policy for foreigners is relatively clear and stable. The country allows retirees to live long-term with accessible financial requirements, without forcing them to keep working or invest in complicated schemes. But what truly keeps people here is not what's written on paper. It's everyday life. Neighbors checking in each morning, shopkeepers remembering your name, children greeting you like a familiar relative. The biggest difference between the Philippines and the other countries in this series is language and closeness. English is widely spoken in daily life, from hospitals and banks to casual conversations. This almost completely removes the fear of not being understood, one of the greatest barriers for retirees moving abroad. The cost of living in the Philippines is significantly lower than in the United States, but more important than the financial savings is the emotional cost, or rather, the lack of it. You don't have to pay for connection. You don't have to force yourself into a community. Warmth and human contact happen naturally. For many people, this is the first time in years they sit down for dinner with others without needing a special reason. A comfortable life in a major city in the Philippines typically falls around $1,300 to $1,700 per month. Healthcare in the Philippines is not the best in the world, but major cities have high-quality private hospitals at reasonable costs. Many Americans choose to combine local medical care with returning to the U.S. when specialized treatment is needed. But most of the time, they live healthier lives not just because of medicine, but because their mental well-being is nurtured every day. If Ecuador gives you safety, Panama gives you convenience, Italy gives you meaning, and Portugal gives you peace of mind, then the Philippines gives you something deeply human: the feeling of not being left behind. Here, retirement is not a withdrawal from the world, but an entry into a different circle, where people still have room for one another. And sometimes, what we need most in old age is not more money or more years, but more shared meals filled with conversation and laughter. The Philippines understands that. and that is why it belongs on this list. After everything, the real question is not whether you have enough money to retire, but whether you choose to retire in anxiety or in peace of mind. The countries you have just seen do not promise to make you a millionaire, but they offer what many Americans are missing: time, stability, and the right to grow old without fear. Retirement is no longer about staying where it feels familiar, but about choosing where life can be lived better. And sometimes, the smartest decision is not to save more, but to change your perspective. If you could choose again, would you stay where you are or begin a new chapter somewhere else? Leave a comment, because your answer might open a path you have never considered before.